Beloved, we are living in days unlike any before. The world is shaking, nations are in turmoil, darkness rises, and yet the greatest danger is not out there in the world, but within the house of God itself. For 99% of believers are missing one crucial truth, the very truth that holds the key to victory, power, and the destiny of the people of God. What is this truth? It is this: the faith was never meant to be a religion of comfort, it was always a calling of covenant. Most think being a Christian is simply about believing certain doctrines, attending services, or receiving blessings. But the gospel was never about adding God to our lives, it was about laying down our lives for God. It was never about fitting Him into our plans, but about surrendering to His. The Scriptures declare, "You are not your own, you were bought with a price." Yet how many live as if their faith is just a part of their life, instead of their very life itself? This is the great misunderstanding. The majority confuse belief with discipleship, profession with possession, confession with covenant. Why does it matter? Because when the shaking comes, and it is coming, only those who walk in covenant, who have built their foundation on the rock, will stand. The others, though sincere, though religious, though active in the church, will not endure. The truth is this: to follow Messiah is to die to self, to pride, to sin, to the world. Only then can we truly live. Whoever loses his life for my sake shall find it. This is the narrow road, this is the cost, and this is the secret that has been lost to most of the church in this age of comfort, convenience, and compromise. But you, beloved, you are called to more. You are called not to be among the 99%, but the remnant, the ones who will not bow to the idols of this age, who will not dilute the word to fit the culture, who will not mistake membership for discipleship. If you would walk in power, if you would see revival, if you would stand when all else falls, then remember this truth: you are not here to fit God into your story. You are here because He has written you into His. Christianity is not about fitting God into our plans, but about surrendering fully to His covenant. From the very beginning, the call of God has never been a call to comfort, but a call to covenant. When the Lord first spoke to Abraham, He did not promise him a life of ease. He did not tell him to stay where he was and simply add a little blessing to his daily existence. Instead, He called him to leave everything familiar, his country, his people, his father's house, and to follow Him into the unknown. That was the beginning of the covenant, and it is still the essence of faith today. The problem is that most of God's people have redefined faith into something it was never meant to be. For many, it has become a way to secure personal peace, earthly success, or a guarantee of happiness. Yet the Scriptures make it clear: to walk with God is to enter a covenant, a binding relationship that requires surrender, sacrifice, and obedience. We live in an age where comfort is the highest pursuit. Everything is built around ease and convenience, and tragically, this same spirit has infiltrated the church. The gospel has been reshaped to fit the expectations of the culture. It is presented as a way to improve your life, to solve your problems, to fulfill your dreams. But this is not the gospel of the Messiah. The gospel is not self-centered. It is God-centered. It does not exist to serve us. We exist to serve Him. And yet millions of believers live as though God were an accessory to their lives, something to wear on Sunday and put away for the rest of the week. The covenant says otherwise. The covenant declares that we are not our own. When Messiah shed His blood, it was not merely to forgive sin. It was to purchase a people. To be redeemed is to be bought back at a price. That means that everything we are, everything we have, everything we dream, now belongs to Him. Our breath is no longer ours. Our days are no longer ours. Even our very bodies are no longer ours. This is not the language of comfort, but of consecration. Consider Israel at Mount Sinai. When the Lord brought them out of Egypt, He did not simply free them from bondage so they could pursue their own desires. He brought them to the mountain to cut a covenant. All that the Lord has spoken, we will do, they declared. In that moment, Israel ceased to be its own nation and became the people of God. It was not an invitation to convenience, but a binding pledge of loyalty. To break it would be to invite judgment. To keep it would be to walk in blessing. That is covenant, that is faith. So too in the new covenant, sealed not with the blood of animals, but with the blood of the Son of God. He does not say, add me to your life, and I will make you happy. He says, deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me. The cross is not a symbol of comfort, it is a symbol of death. To carry it means to die to the old life, to the old ways, to the self that once ruled. Only in dying do we find life, only in losing do we gain. Only in surrender do we triumph. But this truth is foreign to many. They come to faith seeking ease, and when the shaking comes, they fall away. They are like the seed planted in shallow soil, which springs up quickly with joy. But when the sun rises and the heat of testing burns, it withers, having no root. Why? Because it was built on comfort, not covenant. Comfort is fragile. Covenant is unbreakable. The covenant says that no matter what storms may come, no matter what trials may test you, you belong to him and he belongs to you. It says that though the world may strip you of possessions, though friends may forsake you, though persecution may strike, you will not be shaken, because your life is bound in the everlasting promises of God. It is not comfort that holds you, but covenant, and covenant endures. Beloved, if you would walk in the power of true faith, you must put away the illusion of comfort and embrace the reality of covenant. Stop asking how God can fit into your plans and begin asking how your life can be poured out for his purposes. Stop treating him as a means to your ends and recognize that you are the means to his. Lay down your dreams, your pride, your agenda, your very self at the foot of the cross. Then you will discover the mystery that the very act of dying to self is the only way to truly live. That covenant, not comfort, is the doorway to joy unshakable, peace unbreakable, and life everlasting. For the faith is not about adding God to your life. It is about surrendering your life into his hands. And once you do, you will find that what he gives you in return is not a fleeting comfort, but a kingdom that cannot be shaken. Many profess faith, but few walk in the daily cost of following Messiah, laying down self, sin, and pride. There is a vast difference between believing in God and following him, yet this difference has been blurred until multitudes can no longer discern it. In our day, faith is often reduced to mere intellectual agreement, as if acknowledging certain truths were the fullness of what it means to walk with the Lord. But the Scriptures reveal that faith is not a passive assent. It is an active walk. To believe without following is not faith at all. It is illusion. The demons believe. They acknowledge that God exists. They even tremble at his reality, but they are not saved. Why? Because belief alone, without surrender, without obedience, without discipleship, is empty. True faith transforms. True faith compels a response. True faith births a life that cannot remain as it was. Messiah never said, agree with these doctrines and you shall be my disciple. He said, follow me. Those words were not abstract, they were literal. They required fishermen to drop their nets, tax collectors to leave their tables, men and women to abandon their security and walk after him wherever he went. It cost them everything. They could no longer live as they once lived, for to follow meant a new path, a new purpose, a new identity. That is discipleship, but look at the modern church. How many sit in pews, speak the creeds, sing the songs, yet remain unchanged in their daily lives? They believe, but they do not follow. They acknowledge, but they do not obey. Their faith consists of words without deeds, of profession without possession. It is as if they have signed their names to a contract they have never read, claimed a covenant they have never entered, or worn a uniform of an army they have never joined. And when trials come, such faith crumbles, because it was never rooted in surrender. It was never anchored in obedience. It was belief without discipleship, and such belief has no power to stand. Consider the rich young ruler. He believed in God, he kept the commandments, he even sought out the master. Yet when told to sell what he had and follow, he walked away sorrowful. Why? Because he wanted faith without the cost. He wanted to believe without following. But there is no such path. The door of discipleship swings on the hinges of surrender. Without it, belief is only a shadow. Messiah drew a line in the sand. If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. He did not call for admirers, but for followers. He did not seek those who would applaud from a distance, but those who would walk in his steps, share in his sufferings, and live by his Spirit. Belief may begin the journey, but only discipleship carries it forward. In the book of Acts, no one thought of believers as those who merely agreed to a set of truths. They were called followers of the way. Their faith was visible, tangible, lived out in daily life, in community, in sacrifice, even in persecution. They turned the world upside down not because they believed in theory, but because they followed in practice. Their lives bore the marks of discipleship. Beloved, it is not enough to say, "I believe." The question is, do you follow? Do you walk in his ways when no one is watching? Do you obey when it costs you? Do you pick up the cross when it is heavy? Do you surrender when it hurts? This is the measure of discipleship. The tragedy of our age is that many have been lulled into thinking that salvation costs nothing, that it demands nothing, that it is simply a matter of words spoken once long ago. But Messiah never hid the cost. He spoke of narrow gates and hard roads. He spoke of hating one's own life in comparison to him. He spoke of leaving behind all to gain all. It is costly. Yet what is the cost compared to the reward? To lose the world is nothing if it means gaining the kingdom. To lay down one's life is nothing if it means receiving eternal life. So the call goes forth again. Do not settle for belief without discipleship. Do not be content to be part of the crowd that listens but never follows. Be among the few, the remnant, the disciples who take him at his word and walk where he leads, no matter the cost. For belief without following is a deception, but discipleship is the narrow road that leads to life. Modern Christianity often confuses activity, attendance, and blessings with true obedience and sacrifice. We live in an age of convenience. Everything is designed to be faster, easier, more comfortable. With one touch of a screen, food arrives at the door. With one click, desires are met. With one swipe, choices are made. And this culture of convenience has not only shaped the world, but has crept into the house of God. The tragedy is that what was meant to be a holy people, set apart and consecrated, has too often become a people conformed to the culture of ease. When trials come, only those rooted in covenant and obedience will endure. Superficial religion will collapse. The day is coming, and it is already upon us, when every foundation will be tested. What is built on the sand cannot stand. What is built on the rock will endure. The Scriptures have spoken of a shaking. The prophet declared, "Yet once more I will shake not only the earth, but also the heavens." The shaking is the removal of things that can be shaken, so that what cannot be shaken may remain. This is not a word of speculation, but of certainty. It is the appointed reality of the age, and the tragedy is that most who call themselves believers are not prepared for it, for they have built their faith on what is fragile instead of what is eternal. Look at the world even now. Economies rise and fall, governments shift, the culture is unmoored, morality collapses. Institutions once thought unshakable crumble before our eyes. We have entered the time of upheaval, where the old securities are exposed as illusions. The very ground trembles beneath our feet, and the question is asked, upon what have you built your life? For if it is built on convenience, on culture, on the approval of man, on wealth or prosperity, it will not endure the storm. Messiah himself warned us. He spoke of two men who built houses, one built on the sand, one built on the rock. Both houses looked fine while the sun was shining. Both houses appeared strong when the weather was calm. But when the storm came, only one stood, and so it is with us. It is not in the time of ease that the foundation is revealed, but in the time of shaking. It is the storm that unmasks what lies beneath. There are multitudes in the church who believe they are secure because they profess faith, because they attend services, because they have heard the word, but hearing without doing is sand. Profession without obedience is sand. Religion without surrender is sand. When the storm of testing strikes, when persecution comes, when the comforts of this life are stripped away, such foundations collapse. The tragedy is not that the storm comes, but that so many will discover too late that they were never built upon the rock. Beloved, the shaking is not meant to destroy those who belong to God. It is meant to reveal what is true. If your faith is rooted in Him, then when the shaking comes, you will stand. You may be pressed, but you will not be crushed. You may be struck down, but you will not be destroyed. For your life is hidden in the One who cannot be moved. But if your faith has been built on the sand of superficiality, on the ease of convenience, then the shaking will expose it for what it is. This is why the call goes forth now, before the storm grows stronger. Lay down every false foundation. Tear out the roots that are shallow and plant yourself deep in Him. Build not on the shifting ground of the age, but on the solid word of God. Anchor your soul not in fleeting pleasures, but in eternal promises. Do not wait for the storm to test what you should be testing now. Examine your heart. Ask, am I following Him because it is easy or because He is Lord? Do I worship Him when it costs me nothing, or will I worship Him when it costs me everything? Will I stand for Him when the world despises me, or will I shrink back to preserve my comfort? These are the questions that reveal the foundation. The shaking is coming to every nation, to every people, to every life. You cannot stop it, but you can choose where you will stand. If you are in Him, then you will stand unshaken, for He is the rock eternal. His kingdom cannot be moved, His throne cannot be toppled, His word cannot be broken. To build on Him is to be secure when everything else falls. And when the storm passes, what is built on the rock will remain, shining as a testimony to the world that there is a foundation stronger than fear, stronger than death, stronger than the powers of hell itself. The shaking will test every foundation, but it will also reveal every true disciple, and the world will know who is built on sand and who is built on the rock. So choose now, beloved. Do not wait for the shaking to decide. Build your life on what cannot be shaken, and when the storm comes, and it will come, you will not only endure, you will stand as a witness, a light, and a living stone in the house of the eternal God. God is raising a people who will not compromise, who will stand apart from the 99%, and who will carry His fire into a darkened world. All throughout history, God has worked through remnants. When the masses turned away, when nations fell into idolatry, when the multitudes forsook the covenant, there was always a remnant who would not bow, who would not compromise, who would not be moved by the currents of the age. It was never the majority that carried the light, but the faithful few, and so it is now. The call goes forth in this generation, not to the crowd, not to the multitude, but to the remnant. The remnant is not defined by numbers, but by faithfulness. In the days of Elijah, the prophet thought he was the last one left who had not bowed to Baal. But the Lord said, I have reserved 7,000 who have not bowed their knee nor kissed him. They were unseen, hidden, but they were there. A faithful remnant in the midst of apostasy. So too today, in a world where even much of the church has compromised, there is still a remnant. Men and women who refuse to call evil good and good evil. Disciples who refuse to trade truth for acceptance, or righteousness for comfort. The remnant is marked by separation. They are in the world, but not of it. They walk among the culture, but do not partake of its idols. They are not seduced by its pleasures, nor intimidated by its threats. Their eyes are set on higher things. Their loyalty is not to kings or governments, not to trends or opinions, but to the King of Kings. And because their loyalty is to Him, they cannot be bought, they cannot be silenced, they cannot be swayed. The remnant is also marked by fire. They are not lukewarm, for the lukewarm cannot survive the shaking. They burn with a love for God that outshines the darkness of the age. They know that to stand in a time of compromise requires more than casual belief. It requires a faith that is alive, a fire that is unquenchable. The remnant carries that fire. They are willing to be mocked, to be rejected, to be cast out by men, so long as they are found faithful before God. And the remnant is marked by hope. While the world trembles in fear, the remnant knows that their foundation is unshakable. While others despair, the remnant looks upward. They know that the kingdom they serve cannot fall, and the king they follow cannot be dethroned. They shine all the brighter because they know that darkness is only the backdrop for light to be revealed. Beloved, the Lord does not need the majority. He never has. He chooses the few to accomplish the great. With Gideon's 300, he overturned armies. With 12 disciples, he changed the course of history. With one faithful remnant in the last days, he will bear witness to all nations before the end comes. So do not despise the smallness of numbers. Do not be discouraged when it seems that compromise has overtaken the church, or when truth seems to be drowned out by noise. God is not looking for the multitude. He is looking for you. To be part of the remnant is not a matter of title but of choice. It is a daily decision to live set apart, to refuse compromise, to walk in holiness though the world mocks, to stand firm though the crowd falls away. It is costly, yes. You may stand alone at times. You may be misunderstood, rejected, even persecuted. But remember, the remnant is never truly alone. For those who walk with God walk with the company of the faithful across the ages, from the prophets to the apostles to the martyrs to the hidden saints who carried the flame in secret places. The Lord is calling in this hour. He is sifting, separating the wheat from the chaff, the true from the false, the remnant from the multitude, and he is asking, will you be among the few? Will you be set apart when the crowd bows down? Will you stand when all others fall? Will you carry the fire when the world is cold? For in the end it will not be the comfortable, the popular, or the convenient who change history. It will be the remnant. And if you choose to answer that call, then you will be part of the testimony that in the darkest of times the light did not go out, the fire was not quenched, the truth was not silenced, and the covenant was not forgotten. You will be part of the witness that stands unshaken until the day when the King returns. Once, to be a believer was to walk the narrow path, to embrace the cost, to know that following Messiah might strip you of possessions, reputation, even life. The early church did not know convenience. They knew persecution. They did not gather for entertainment. They gathered at risk. They did not come to be served. They came to serve, to break bread, to share in prayers, to lay down their lives one for another. Faith was a fire, a covenant, a surrender. But now, for many, it has been diluted into something that fits into a life of comfort and requires little sacrifice. Look around. How many sermons are crafted not to pierce the heart, but to soothe the ear? How many messages are designed not to convict, but to entertain? How many houses of worship have become sanctuaries of convenience, where everything is tailored to the desires of the people instead of the desires of God? We choose churches as we choose restaurants, by preference, by taste, by what pleases us most. We treat the sacred as if it were a commodity to consume. Yet the Lord never offered his covenant as a matter of convenience. The call of Messiah is not convenient. It is not comfortable. It is not designed to fit neatly into the margins of a busy life. It demands the whole life. It interrupts. It disrupts. It overturns tables and breaks through walls. It commands that we leave behind the nets, the tax tables, the excuses, and follow. But a church that has settled for convenience does not want disruption. It wants smoothness. It wants God without the cross, blessing without brokenness, resurrection without death. Consider how easily people grow weary if a service runs long, if prayer takes time, if worship demands attention beyond their schedule. Consider how rarely fasting is practiced, how little sacrifice is embraced, how much of faith has been shaped to avoid inconvenience. But, beloved, convenience is the enemy of covenant. Where everything is tailored to be easy, there can be no cross. And where there is no cross, there is no true discipleship, no true transformation, no true power. The danger of a convenient faith is that it cannot endure the storm. A tree planted in shallow soil may look fine in calm weather, but when the winds blow it is uprooted. So too, when trials and persecutions arise, those who have settled for convenience will not stand. Their faith will prove to have been built on sand. For what costs us nothing, we value little. But what costs us much, we will guard with our lives. The early believers risked everything, and because they risked everything, they gained everything. Their faith shook empires and overturned idols. They counted the cost, and because they counted it, they discovered the immeasurable worth of what they had received. But when faith is reduced to what is easy, it loses its fire, it loses its edge, it loses its witness. The world looks on and sees a people who are no different, who serve God only when it is comfortable to do so. And what testimony is that? Beloved, the Lord is calling his people out of convenience and back into covenant. He is calling for a church that will embrace the hard road, that will worship even when it is costly, that will serve even when it is inconvenient, that will love even when it hurts. He is calling for a people who will not conform to the culture of ease, but who will stand as a light of truth in the midst of darkness. For what is convenient may satisfy for a moment, but it will never satisfy the soul. Only covenant can, only surrender can, only the life laid down can find the life everlasting. Do not be numbered among those who settle for ease. Be counted among those who choose the cross, who embrace the narrow way, who refuse to compromise the fire for the sake of comfort. The kingdom of God is not entered by convenience. It is entered by covenant, and when the shaking comes, convenience will crumble, but covenant will remain.